welcome to this week's Foundation Friday. I am joined today by Danny Nichols, co-founder and executive director of Operation Open Water. Thanks for joining me, Danny.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you so much for having me, and happy holidays.
Yeah,
Appreciate all
happy
you guys
holidays.
do.
Yeah, happy holidays to you, man. It was a pleasure meeting you. I want to say almost a year ago when we were back at Blue Street Capital when we first learned about Operation Open Water. But appreciate your time today and look forward to sharing kind of your message, to the equipment finance community, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the support. I mean, yeah, we connected almost a year ago, and the level of support that you guys have shown us this year has just been incredible. So from all of us at Open Water, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been huge.
Perfect. I mean, what you do, I'm not going to take away from, I'm going to let you give an overview and then people can understand why we're so passionate about your charity, Danny. So for those people who haven't heard of Open Water, do you mind just kind of introducing the charity and your mission?
Operation Open Water. Our mission is to support the health and wellness of every first responder and veteran through unique training programs, fellowship, and open water experiences. How we got started, our co-founder, Kyle Kelly, is a combat veteran. And, in 2019, he and I had been involved in, another organization that was teaching surfing to wounded veterans. And, he was participating, I was volunteering, and we just kind of had this aha moment that, our first responders are dealing with the same stress, overstimulation, and trauma that military's going through, but these girls are dealing with it day in and day out for 15, 30-year career. And we really wanted to kind of bridge the gap and bring our military community, our first responder community, and the local waterman community together. And so we concepted this channel crossing on paddle boards from Catalina Island to the Huntington Beach Pier on Veterans Day to raise awareness for mental health issues. And, Kyle's only experience at that time had been, learning how to surf in small waves, and he had never really experienced that open ocean. And
Sure.
myself growing up and, having had the luxury of, surfing at a really competitive level, I always knew that there was more. And the people that I always looked up to were the watermen in our sport, the ones that spent a lot of time out in the open ocean, did a lot of free diving, surfed really big waves. They just were so grounded in Mother Nature and had so much respect for, the ocean that I always admired that ethos of a waterman, mind, body, and spirit. And so we shipped a 12-foot prone paddleboard, which a prone paddleboard is, prone. So you're laying down and you're paddling. Stand-up paddleboard, you stand up and paddle. And
Sure.
Kyle was living in Northeast Texas at the time, and so he didn't know what he was getting himself into. And I had never paddled that channel. It's a 33-mile crossing from Catalina to the Huntington Beach Pier. And I grew up in Huntington Beach, so I've always looked at that island and said, man, I would love to paddle that one day.
It doesn't look that far. It does
not look that far. But once you get out there, it's a different story. So, we shipped a 12-foot prone paddleboard to Tyler, Texas, and Kyle, practiced on his family's pond that was like 200 yards wide. And then, he'd venture out to some local lakes. And so we mentored him. So on Veterans Day, myself, a couple other watermen, and some of our local police officers and marine safety officers, there was 11 of us. We basically mentored Kyle across the channel. And the success of that crossing was really the springboard for us to pursue being a nonprofit organization. We kind of just realized, adventure, exercise, and fellowship were really key ingredients to combat the stress, overstimulation, and trauma that our military and our first responders are dealing with. And, doing something like a channel crossing, it's like a hero's journey. I mean, you can train for it. You you're gonna make it. I mean, your body might give out, but like you're gonna make it. It's not that threatening to where, you know, your life is in jeopardy, but it's just enough of a challenge to
I don't know, man.
really.
If I see a big shark next to me, I might like be like, hey.
Well, so yeah, right. So that's a big part of this hero's journey, right? So 9 hours on the water paddling, you're going to deal with a year's worth of emotions. You're going to learn real quick just how small and insignificant you are. You have no control over the elements. You can't control the wind. You can't control the swell. You can't control the current. You have to surrender to all of that. So the only thing that you can control is your attitude and your actions. And that is like a perfect metaphor for life, because we have no control over people, places, and things. You know, the only thing we have control over is our attitude and our actions. And so that channel crossing really becomes this like this journey of an individual to, you know, work through some of the stuff that they're working through and let it go. And so one of the things that we do, because Veterans Day is on 11/11, so at 11/11, we circle up in the middle of the channel. You know, we're 19, 20 miles into this paddle in the middle of the Catalina Channel, which is 3,000 feet deep. You know, we circle up and everybody drops a rock, and that rock represents a challenge in your life that you're ready to let go of. And so if you've ever done a marathon or ever done any endurance events that are long distance, you know, when you hit that 18 to 22 mile mark, it's generally when you're just done. You know, that's where you really have to go inside and dig deep. The endorphins and the fun all runs away, and then you're just dealing with you and this sucks, and why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. But to your left and your right are your brothers and your sisters paddling and doing, you know, kind of going through it. So you're positively, it's like a positive form of trauma bonding, right? We got it. We got each other. And so it's a bit of a hero's journey. And that channel crossing was this springboard for us to pursue being a nonprofit. And the key with the crossing is we mentored Kyle. Kyle came back the next year and mentored another veteran. And then that was 19 and 20. And then in 21, that veteran that Kyle mentored came back with 5. And then in 22, those 5 came back with another 11. And so you have this like force multiply kind of happening of veterans and first responders mentoring each other across the channel, which is, you know, if we fast forward a little, today we have 3 pillars. We have transformational breathing, we have water immersion, and we have our active mentorship. Those are our 3 pillars. And right when we got done with the first channel crossing, Kyle and I took a look at our lives and said, well, what's the most important thing for us? And breath work was the most important thing. You can go days without eating, you can go days without drinking, you can only go minutes without breathing. And what we had learned at that point was that most of us, we don't breathe efficiently. And so Brian McKenzie, who has been, you know, studying the art of breath for, 25 years, he was one of our mentors. And so we brought him in to start teaching breath work, primarily around stress physiology and understanding the autonomic nervous system. And, you know, you have different levels of, hypervigilance, and, your sympathetic nervous system is fight and flight, and your parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. But what happens is, you can have your sympathetic system could be so high that you have anxiety, or your parasympathetic can be so low that you have depression. So we go into these modes of like, oh, I have anxiety or I have depression, when the reality is we just have a dysregulated nervous system. And so learning how to breathe, learning different techniques, understanding your physiology more, we can take this step back and go, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have a dysregulated nervous system because maybe with shift work, I've been working the last 72 hours, or like fire department, right? Like you're working either 24, 48, 72, or 96, depends
Yeah.
where you work and what the staffing's like. And then with the police department, I mean, you could be 3 days on, 4 off, or 4 on, 3 off, but those shifts are 12 to 17-hour days. And so there's just always this go, right? And when you get off work, your body wants to just relax and shut down, but you don't always have that opportunity. And so you start compounding, right? And so we looked at that as a really good opportunity for us to, um, you know, share some resources and tools around breath work that can help these individuals on the job and help them when they're off the job. And so what springboarded from that, just that first breathwork class, was, oh, now we're going to start to learn more about carbon dioxide and the CO2 sensitivities around that. And so Morgan Hostery, who is one of our coaches, who is a very accomplished water woman herself, she's also one of the best free divers in the world. So she started to take us into the pool and start teaching us about CO2 tolerance. And so we went, oh, okay, so now we're introducing breath work, transformational breathing. Now we're taking that breathing to the water with water immersion. And now we're understanding more about CO2 sensitivity. If we put ourselves in a pool right now and they say, hey, hold your breath, go underwater and hold your breath. You're going to go underwater and hold your breath. And your mind is going to go, I can't do this. I got to breathe. I got to breathe. Yeah. I feel like I'm out of oxygen. I feel like I'm out of oxygen. I'm getting these hiccups, panic, panic, panic.
Yep.
It's one of the greatest lies, because what's really happening is your body is just building up CO2 and it's trying to tell you that, hey, you're out of oxygen. You can't breathe. You need to breathe. But the reality is that's your mind that is not adjusting to an uncomfortable state. And so
Interesting.
you're learning how to calm your mind. You're learning how to read your nervous system. And if anybody spends any time around free divers, one of the first things they learn to control when they hold their breath is those hiccups. They're just elevated. It's just an elevated state of CO2 tolerance, but you can actually push through that because CO2 is actually oxygenates your blood. It's actually really beneficial, right? And so that water immersion program has really helped us put people in an unpredictable or uncontrollable environment and teach them how to remain calm. That translates firsthand to the job.
Absolutely.
Right. They get a call, heart rate goes up, the intensity goes up, and they can go, you can breathe, you can pause, you can really start to kick in some of those tools. So transformational breathing and water immersion have been these really important, like, 1-day programs for us to just give additional resources and help these individuals expand their window of tolerance. Right. And so here we are 4 years later, and we've become this organization that is like, hey, we are focused on training. We're focused on recovery. And so we're always stretching the edges of that potential. Right. The more we focus on training, the equal amount we have to focus on recovery. Well, what comes with recovery? Meditation, sleep, diet, all those things that come back to this wonderful, physiologist body, this machine that we are, it's really special and it can do a lot. So we've come to this place where we're like, man, most people just don't have a real understanding of their physiology. We're really quick to go, wow, I have anxiety, or I have depression, or I have this, or I have that. And, we're taking a look at things going, well, control the controllables, right? Like, let's focus on breathing. Let's focus on our physiology. Let's focus on our diet. Let's focus on sleeping. Let's just like provide provide as many resources as we can in this training and recovery bucket, because when you put the uniform on, you're performing. Take the uniform off, you're training and recovering, right? And so it's a triangle. And so that's
Sure.
kind of where we are today, and that's where the active mentorship starts to come into play, because we have this 12-week run up to the channel crossing that has kind of turned into this active mentorship pillar, because we'll take 14 to 16 individuals and we'll go on a retreat, and that retreat is hyper focused around training and recovery. And at the end of that week, the individuals have a 12-week training program to run up to the crossing. And then, they get to cross the channel together. And so it kind of becomes like the intersection point of the mentor and the mentee. And then it starts all over again. The mentee becomes the mentor, and they just, you pay it forward. And so right now our channel crossing is at capacity at 50 paddlers, because of the logistics to have a very safe crossing against a ton of uncontrollables like weather, right?
Sure.
But it's been really good, because you have about 25 mentors and you have about 25 recruits, and it's really special.
No.
Yeah,
that's amazing, Danny. That was amazing.
Yeah. So to recap, we have 3 pillars: transformational breathing, water immersion, and active mentorship.
Yeah. Perfect. And then, is this all just funded by donations? Do any of the departments give you any help?
Well, so it's a good question. So we are 100% funded by donations. The general public, some in-kind sponsorship, some grants, some wonderful organizations like CARES. It's like any nonprofit. You're just out there carrying the message, and you're just grateful for every dollar that comes in. Working closely with our first responder agencies, we're learning a lot about, we're learning a lot. So the government has actually given a lot of these agencies a wellness budget, right? And so a lot of these agencies are now focused on, mental health and looking at these different modalities. You have traditional that insurance covers, and then you have the more holistic, which is stuff that we're providing.
Sure.
But the challenge is a lot of these agencies don't know what to do with these budgets, because they're already short staffed, so they can't pull their employees out of work to use these resources, because the backfill is already stressed. So now they're trying to take a look at, well, how do we handle a lot of this stuff off duty? And it's a challenge. So we've had a lot of success locally here in Orange County with Huntington Beach Fire, Laguna Beach, Newport, Costa Mesa, because we can work closely with their individuals off duty. And I would say the biggest buy-in is that the command sees how powerful this is. And so if there is an opportunity to do stuff on duty, they'll pull, like fire department can pull a rig out of service for 2 hours, and they can do some breath work stuff. Or if they have a recruit class that's going through an academy, they can incorporate some of the stuff that we're doing. So we're starting to see some integration there. But it's a challenging time to be a first responder. And I'm not a first responder, so I don't want to speak for them, but just based on my relationships and connections with them, a lot of them are working overtime. A So there's a lot of pressure on the job, and there's a lot of pressure off the job because, let's just take a 30-year career for a firefighter, right? Over the course of 30 years, they're gone 10 to 12 years because the shift work is, 24 on, 24 off, or maybe it's 48 on, 24 off, or sometimes it's 17, sometimes it's 96 hours on, 48 off. So there's a tremendous amount of stress that are being put on these individuals, and there are heroes. I mean, look, like, perfect example. If you and I are at a coffee shop right now, and we're sitting down and talking, and we have a firefighter and a police officer in our group, and something really bad happens right over here to our left, you and I are probably going to run to the right, and they're going to run straight into it. And so I feel like we have a really good opportunity to educate the community why it's important to, serve our first responders,
Sure.
because they're serving us day in and day out. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes, and so just
No,
that
I mean,
little extra level.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's almost like a thankless job anymore, right? Where you sit there and you just take a look. They constantly just get beat up, beat up, beat up, and it's like, it's not. What are we doing to give back and
Well, it's
promote?
just,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just recognizing that, hey, if a police officer shows up at a call and he's a little edgy, well, instead of going, man, that guy's a jerk, it's like, gosh, what 3 calls did he just come from?
you had no idea what he just dealt with or the
Yeah,
situation because he
yeah.
worked, you know, so many hours of overtime the night
Well,
before or whatever. You never know when they,
well,
people have
take
stuff. And
take
yeah,
that take look, we're not sending these officers to get a master's in psychology, but their main job is to de-escalate situations. And
sure.
so, like, we're putting these individuals in, some spots where you're like, hey, like, they're learning some things on the fly, and so it just for me anyways, it's like just a little extra level of compassion and empathy for these individuals. They don't want to hear thank you for your service, but it really is, thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
yeah.
It's all connected. You got, our military protecting our country, you have our first responders protecting our community, so we have a responsibility to, protect them best as we can.
No, makes complete sense, and thank you for that. So the people watching this, and equipment finance, you've met a few people in our community. I think NIFA even did an event last spring, so people understand open water. They're getting to know it more. But for the people who haven't supported, the charity, Danny, what can they do to make a difference, to the first responder community and support open water?
Yeah. If you would like to learn more about open water and what we're doing, you can go to our website, beopenwater.org. Or you can go to our Instagram, at beopenwater. You can learn more about us and understand some of the programs, and if you feel inclined to help support us, we would greatly appreciate it. I would say at a minimum, the next time you see a first responder, just say thanks for your service. Let them know that you're there for them, because sometimes just knowing that the community's got your back can give you that extra, pride or passion for your purpose. And
Sure.
yeah, that's it.
Absolutely, Danny. Well, it's a pleasure seeing you again, man. Thanks again for sharing your story and discussing open water. And look forward to seeing you in February in
Yeah.
person. So
Thanks,
it'll be
Jesse. I
great.
really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for all the support. I mean, you guys have been really huge in helping us with our mission. And, we are coming out of our 3rd year. We're into our 4th year. Our calendar year is, July 1 to June 30. So we're kind of going into our 4th year right now. And, we directly served 120 individuals in our last fiscal year, and we're goal to serve 286 this year. So,
Okay.
NIFA and Harris, you guys came in at a great time to really help us with this mission. So, thank you guys so much.
Awesome. No worries, man. I appreciate all the work you're doing, and anything we can do to help support, we're going to do so, Danny. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Take care, man.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.